Shalom, beloved family. It's your girl Sophia Spiritualite, and we're here with a video about the Great Water Retrograde of 2022. This is a response video to Brother Wisdom, who requested a deeper dive onto Neptune. I typically do tarot and astrology readings on my page, which is the microcosm, which a lot of new people, that's what they can understand, that's where they need. But when you want to ascend, you need a macro view. That's where I think Brother Wisdom is doing a fabulous job, and I have absolutely learned a lot and brought a lot into my understanding from watching his videos. So um moving on, this video is about the Great Water Retrograde. This is something that was shocking to me to hear that there was so many water planets in retrograde. And I will tell you now, before I even start the video, the Gentiles are not talking about this. I call them Gentiles. You call them inorganic beings. Same thing. The Gentiles are not talking about this. There was no one who said, "Oh well, we've got all these water planets in retrograde. I wonder what that could mean." There's no Gentile explanation or discussion of this topic that I could find. So, this is again proof that we have our own science, we have our own astronomy, we have our own astrology, we have our own engineers, we have our own anything. We're fully capable of doing our own interpretations on this side. We do not need no Gentiles to give us no interpretation of the universe, put it together for us, anything like that. So, this chart, I'm going to start with this one. These are the transits, these are the planets that are in retrograde. Um, all except for Mars, which is affiliated with the water planet, with a water constellation. So that's why I left it up here. I removed the other planets so that you could clearly see what was going on. And as you can see, um, we have in the ninth house, which I'll discuss in just one moment, you have Juno, you have Neptune, you have Jupiter, and you have Chiron all in retrograde. And in the eighth house, which is it is a water house, which I will also discuss again. You have uh, Saturn, and then you have Vesta. And then just below the surface, in the sixth house, you have Pluto in retrograde. And then uh, actually, that's South Node. South Node is in the fourth house, and then in the 10th house, you have, which is the house of the father. That is the father house. You have Uranus, and you have North Node, and you have Mars, I'm sorry, all in the 10th house. So the first thing to notice about this particular chart, these are transits from August 1st. That's when we had that conjunction with Mars, North Node, and Uranus. As you can see, they're all in the 10th house. Duh. So I wanted to start from this date. So you have all this major conjunction in the 10th house, which I'm going to discuss in another video. Um, in conjunction with all of these other things that are in retrograde, all the water right behind it. So, um, this is not an accident. This is again something that has never happened on this planet. This particular conjunction, and then you add in this great water retrograde on top of this unbelievable, never before seen conjunction, and you have the makings of some far greater than biblical events. All right, so this is just a chart with, of course, this is the professional astrology software, so this is not something you're going to like necessarily see online. I don't know if it shows the right degrees. I don't know anything. This is just what I have, right? And this is just a listing of all the things in the particular houses. If you want to do some more research, each one of these things means something. You're more than welcome to screenshot this page and go and look into it a little bit further. That's the reason why I put it up here. I'm no expert in this area. Let me say this first and foremost, I'm no expert at anything. All I do is um I get my information from the angels. I seek the Father's face. I get this information, and I usually blurt it out onto the internet, hoping that there's someone who can make some sense of it and use it. So I'm not an expert. I'm not some famous person or whatever the case may be. I don't know anything. All I know is I can clearly look at this chart and see you have three a never before happened conjunction in the house of the father. So I don't really know what else you can say about that. And then you've got right up, literally right beside it, the mother and all of these waters and watery influences in retrograde. So that's all I can tell you for sure, that I have two eyes and I can see. All right. Um, all right. So um, this quote, let me see, I'll make sure I talk about. Oh, this is just the little symbols for the planets. Again, you can screenshot this so that you can look a little bit closer into that chart that I showed already. Okay, so we're going to call this the Great Water Retrograde of 2022. Again, it has never happened before. And no, the retrograde may have happened before, but not in conjunction with that conjunction that has never happened before, right? So these particular events together we have never seen. All right. So water signs planetary rulers are the moon, Pluto, and Neptune. So that's the reason why I had Pluto on that chart. And the moon actually does, and the Pluto is also in retrograde, right? And the moon actually does not go into retrograde. The mother does not, neither does the son, the father. So that's why I did not include them on the chart because I didn't want to be any confusion about that. Okay. So the water element um governs emotions and our deepest feelings. It is receptive feminine energy and is tied to the heart chakra. It's secondarily tied to the third eye chakra, so it's easy to see why the water element is so connected with love, self-healing, sorrow, reflection, intuition, the unconscious, infertility, and regeneration. So a lot of brothers and sisters have been feeling like third eye activations and stuff that they've never felt before. So this would be indicative of why that might be happening. All right. Along with fire that warms the air and air that aerates, the water elemental nourishes the earth while with life-giving fluids. Again, you see the water being recessed from the earth in certain places, Lake Mead, Hoover Dam, Salt Lake, being taken away from there and put into other places like Kentucky. Um, where they did our people really bad, West Virginia, which was a part of Virginia, which did our people pretty bad, and other places that are Baltimore was under a flood. I heard somebody say they needed a canoe, which Baltimore is one of the most racist places on earth. Me being a Marylander, I can say that with some certainty. So, um, the direction that is connected with water is west. And the sun is setting on the west. Twilight, sun is setting on the west, and the season is autumn. And the west is in the autumn of its youth, which is it's done. You know, it's over. Their season, their summer fun is done, and now they're getting ready to go into a whole cold, hard winter. All right. The spirits of water are the undines and mermaids. Water magic is often connected with the phases of the moon and with the ebb and flow of the earth's tides. All right, so I want to discuss this before I discuss that. This is a circle, just like the one that we saw um, here, right? So those numbers that are on the inside circle, the 1 through 12, this is what they represent in case you've never seen that before. And I wanted to point this out because you have Saturn and Vesta in the eighth house, which is the house of water, Scorpio house, which is sex, death, birth, shared resources, and psyche. So you have anything related to water is being slowed down by Saturn because it's in the eighth house. Then you have fire in the ninth house. That's where a bunch of the water planets were, which is protect perspective, nature, philosophy, beliefs. That's all in the fire house. And so you can see that we have a lot of fires uh, uh, in places where a lot of philosophy was developed in this country, which would be California. There's a great deal of our what goes on what happens in California eventually spreads to the rest of the country. So it's no wonder that they're having a lot of fires, okay? And all of those planets are in retrograde in a fire sign, which was going to be hot and steamy. Thus, you also have heat waves that are going on. So these things are not isolated. I mean, once you see the patterns, you can't unsee them. And then, of course, and then because they're all water signs in the house of fire, they're going to be slowed down also by Saturn. That's how it works. All right, and so then the 10th house, you have those planets in a conjunction. That's Earth, um, which is the father house, authority, government, career. So of course you're going to have that's going to affect that is why Nancy Pelosi traveled to Taiwan when that conjunction was occurring because she know that's the house of authority, but she's not the one who has any authority. See, this is why the Gentiles are wrong. They think that they are in control, and as you will see as I go through these slides, they are not in control of anything. They're very barely in control of themselves, and they're actually not in control of themselves. Um, and then I also wanted to point out that Pluto was in retrograde in the sixth house, which is service, work, health, and routines. And so that's going to make any service more intense, which is another reason why I think Nancy thought that she could go to Taiwan and it would be like an intense visit, but good for her because she's used to being able to whip and roll over these planets and do what she wants, you know? But that's no longer the case. So, um, I tried to leave the links, not the actual physical links, but what websites I got this information from, so you can again stop, screenshot it, go check it out um, for yourself. Okay, so what to expect from August 22's retrograde planets. So a total of 5 planets will be in retrograde in August, and there will be one planet actually stationing retrograde during the month. So Jupiter is stationed retrograde in Aries, Saturn is stationed in Aquarius, water sign, Neptune in Pisces, water sign, Pluto in Capricorn, which is an earth sign. Um, what you see how that affects the father, right? So, Uranus will be stationing in retrograde at the end of the month on August 24th. So it says you can expect to feel the energy of these retrogrades pretty strongly. Um, it says in your houses, but it's being felt strongly by everyone all over the planet. So now I want to do just a brief discussion on retrograde motion in astronomy because I think that it's really it's a little bit confusing because it's not that the planets are actually spinning backwards per se. It just looks like they're spinning backwards because they slow down while we maintain speed. But actually, we're not maintaining speed. We're speeding up because if you've seen any of that research, we're actually losing time. Seconds, minutes, every single day. The days are shorter and shorter. And so it's not really actually true that we're staying stationary. We're actually speeding up, and so it's making the planets look like they're moving even slower than it seems than normal. Even they look like they're moving even slower and even more in reverse than normal because we're actually speeding up. The spin of the planet is speeding up. All right, so retrograde motion in astronomy. Astronomically, retrogrades happen as Earth is passing or being passed by other planets. Like the apparent movement of the sun through the zodiac, a planet seemingly moves backwards is an illusion, as the planets always revolve around the sun in the same direction. The appearance of retrograde motion occurs because of the relative difference in speed. It's something like when you're sitting at a stoplight and the car next to you takes off unexpectedly. You may find yourself stomping down the brakes because of a temporary feeling of moving backwards. Similarly, it's when the planets are at their closest approach to Earth that apparent retrograde motion occurs. In short, retrograde motion is an illusory side effect of planetary proximity. So, That means I wanted to point this out because that means that the planets are actually also very close. In addition to the planets being looking like they're moving backwards, they're also way closer than normal. So and that's a lot of planets and asteroids to all be very close because that retrograde is, means it just looks like they're close. It looks like they're moving quickly. I mean backwards, and they're way more. They're affecting us way more than they want to lead on. They want to make it seem. All right, so apologize for the baby noises. Okay, so next slide. All right, as retrograde motion is simply hold on, let me see. Um, let's see if this is working. All right, my apologies. As retrograde motion is not simply a matter of moving backwards. Before and after the retrograde proper, planets actually perform wide looping forays from the elliptic where their motion varies as much as in the vertical dimensions as it does the horizontal. There are 8 basic shapes these loops assume, depending on the relationship between the location of the particular retrograde and the location of the planet's nodes. And that is important because in traditional astrology, they don't even talk about the height and depth of the planet as it relates to you, when you were born. So retrograde planets again are actually closer, so that they're literally closer to the earth than if a planet was direct. And then to make matters worse, you have um it just affects it. It's closer to the earth, and then it's closer to the earth physically, then it's also lower down to the earth too, from height to from far away, like vertical, tall to short. It's actually closer down to the earth. So these are two different so it's not just close width wise, it's close height wise. So it's real short, like super short um distance to these planets right now. um so a lot of the energies are coming in from the planets in ways that we are not used to. We don't know, we've never had happen before. Again, this is all sort of new territory for everybody. Sorry, I'm chasing toddlers, which did not work out too well. The toddler got away, of course. So that's okay. So retrograde meaning in astrology. Astrologically, when we try to understand the meaning of a planet that's moving backwards, the first thing to note that it's a fairly rare occurrence, which, but it's not because, anyway, we'll get to that in a second. The vast majority of planetary motion is direct, so direct becomes normal. Most of the time, planets move forward motion or relatively parallel to the ecliptic, which we can think of as the main highway, simply being contrary to the normal flow. Retrograde motion represents an exception or perhaps even a challenge to this sense of normalcy. But since retrograde planets depart from the main highway altogether, perhaps it's more appropriate to think of them as seekers or explorers who travel the celestial byways in search of something not available on the main highway. Retrograde types. Because of the different looping shapes, there are at least 8 different types of retrogrades for each of the planets. These loops vary in shape much more with the planets that are closest to Earth during their respective retrogrades. I'm going to skip this paragraph about, oh no, I'm not. During their respective retrogrades, Venus, Mercury, and Mars all come closer to the Earth than the Sun, penetrating the interior heart space of our system. These retrogrades, um, these retrogrades are more extreme in the distance the planet moves from the ecliptic, which makes their loop shapes more exaggerated. So we can interpret the retrograde of Venus, Mercury, and Mars as being the most personal, meaning they affect individuals. Okay, um, the most personal, the most challenging, and requiring the biggest adjustments individually. That's something that you personally can adjust for. That's what that means. All right, Jupiter and Saturn go into retrograde more frequently, about a third of the time. So they just said on the last page that retrograde is it doesn't happen, but then on this page it says, oh well, these planets are in retrograde a third of a time. That seems like a lot. Oh, anyway, these Gentiles. Okay, so um about a third of the time, and their loop shapes are more flattened and less extreme. So we can interpret these retrogrades as being somewhat less personal, less challenging overall, requiring smaller adjustments. That's not true. It affects more people. We can see when Saturn goes into retrograde, it doesn't just affect one person, it affects entire groups of people, all go into super slow mode all at once. Or when Jupiter is a planet of fortune. So when Jupiter goes into retrograde, it takes away a fortune from a lot of different people, a big group of people. And this time, unfortunately for the Gentiles, it's not us, it's them. All right, the outer planets are in retrograde about 40% of the time, so most people have at least one of them in retrograde in their birth charts. That's what they mean. Retrograde effects. Since retrograde motion is so radically different than the norm, it's not a surprise that many people often experience it as disruptive. The question then is whether the disruption is in and of itself a bad thing. It seems that getting off the beaten track could be experienced as less disruptive when we know it's coming and plan for it by building some wiggle room. It's this is what the Gentiles do. They're like, oh, we'll just prep, we'll just take our money out the bank. We'll just go to our vacation home in Kentucky. I don't think so. I'm sorry. It also seems that relaxing our expectations, taking less for granted, and being more observant are all beneficial practices. As we know that retrograde motion is a side effect of proximity, perhaps any of the problems we perceive during retrogrades are at least somewhat due to being too close to someone or something to see objectively. Yeah, the Gentiles are too close to the demons. They couldn't see the demons as liars, and now they have to deal with the effects of that. So, what to do? Taking our time, getting a little distance, and changing perspectives may be very helpful. In the end, a change of perspective might give us access to an opportunity we would have missed otherwise. Viewed through this lens, perhaps retrograde misadventures can become worth it, even transformative. All right, so that's that. So now let's talk about Neptune. So far, just a little recap. We've covered the different planets that are in retrograde, right? We've covered the houses that they're in and why those houses matter. So we had that conjunction in the house of the father, which that is a whole. Like I said, I'm going to do another video on that, but I didn't even realize that until I said it here with you guys. So that's a whole nother thing. We had that once in a world conjunction that has never happened in the house of the father. And then in the house, the ninth house, which is a fire house, we had the all of the watery planets in retrograde. And then in the house of water, Scorpio, we have Saturn in retrograde in Vesta. And so the Saturn in retrograde is going to slow down all of the water. It's going to slow down everything that's even closely attached to it, which is so it's not necessarily going to affect that conjunction as much. It will slightly because they're very close. They're not usually in a degree that people would say that it affects it. However, being that all this other stuff is going on, it doesn't seem like anything is not affecting anything else in our solar system, in our galaxy right now. So let's talk about Neptune retrograde. All right. Um, I'll just start in the middle. In part, this is true. Neptune has a nebulizing effect that can snap us out of our ego identities just long enough to let a little universal love pour in. And you can see that the sun is sending us all kinds of light codes, downloads, people who are not even living right are getting information, and people whose bodies cannot take it are no more. So you see that this is actually happening in real time. um we can see it. So there's much more to Neptune, and not all of it is rosy. In the foggy realms of Neptune, boundaries tend to disappear altogether, leaving us open to deception and delusions. That is the Gentiles. While part of Neptune's tendency is admirable, in so much it generates a well intentioned desire to serve without reward, the danger with planet Neptune is to dissolve entirely into the other, sacrificing our ego identity as we search for salvation. And that's what you see with the church. That's what you see with the Gentiles. They're waiting for, I'm on alternative media sites, social media sites, and they're waiting for, they're not waiting for Jesus to come and pick them up, but they are still towing the line of only Jesus can save you. Like there's no other hope except to buy guns, stock up, and wait for Jesus. But he's not coming to pick them up. He's just gonna come. Like I don't. It's really confusing what the Gentiles are saying and what they believe. And so I'm not going to try to explain it, but I would just, like I said, they're waiting for Jesus, but not to come pick them up. So it's a little bit just slightly disjointed, okay? Um but for us, we get all the rosy stuff. We have the sun sending us all of these solar waves and the solar flares and the solar winds and pulses and everything that's coming in from the sun. There's a lot of stuff. We're getting a lot of good stuff, and they're not getting the good stuff. So, I'm not gonna read all of this. This is like my fourth time trying to record this video. Here we go. Somewhere deep down, we may believe this is an area of life will lead us to deliverance, and that by sublimating our personal ego based needs to the greater good, we will somehow manage to atone for our sins and be welcomed back into Eden. That's what Neptune makes us feel. Let me go back up. Um, Neptune in a natal chart by sign, house, and aspect can describe the area of life where we seek to be redeemed from disappointing reality of human experience. So we have Neptune in our ninth house, which I already described as. I'm sorry, I hate to go back to this, but we have Neptune in the ninth house, which is philosophy, beliefs, and perspective. So yeah, we're looking to be. Did I pass it? That's retrograde. It's here. Um, we're looking to be redeemed from the disappointing reality of human experience as relation to the philosophy of these inorganic beings. I would say the Gentiles. We're looking to be redeemed from the Gentiles' philosophy, and Neptune has come in this great watery conjunction to be a part of the redeeming force. Okay. Um. Let's see. Oh no. Uh, Here we go. Neptune also involves a fair amount of fantasy. This is the last paragraph. There's something Dionysus in Neptune. Music and dance, diversion and indulgence converge into one, leading us from this plane of existence into sacred non-linear consciousness. As a higher octave of the planet Venus, highly personal affections of romance transmuted by Neptune and collective unconditional love. So that's the love of the mother, and it's in the house where our philosophy, this new philosophy we're developing individually and as a group spiritually, is really coming into play, and the mother is nurturing that with all of the water. So the water is being recessed from the Gentiles or the inorganic beings, and it's being poured fresh onto us. The Shekinah is being poured into us. We are the indwelling of the Shekinah. All right, or the Holy Mother, what however you describe her, Holy Sophia. Um, Neptune retrograde effects. Being the master of illusion means working in mysterious ways. The fact is that retrograde is about 40% of the time. So Neptune's effects are subtle sometimes, even sneaky, very sneaky. When direct, Neptune will put a veil on our eyes, helping us to hide the anxieties and unwanted realities. Once it's in retrograde, Neptune loses its power. This illusion is slowly but surely stripped away. So that's what you're seeing with the Gentiles. They are literally being stripped away from everything they ever believed, everything they ever thought, everything they ever knew is being taken away from them. Sometimes leaving us face to face with harsh and painful reality. Those rose colors filters are gone and we must face reality. All right. Neptune retrograde can help us find deeper meaning not only for our dreams but for our entire existence. And I think that you see that amongst the nations. Again, maybe I didn't say it, but because I recorded this video 4 times, but I look at us as different tribes. Like you have the builder tribe, you have the priesthood tribe, you have the scholar tribe. There's different tribes. I'm sure there's other groups of people, but this is what I've run into so far that are basically all on the same page in this type of stuff. And so that is to say that even though um we're different, we still all want the same thing. We want total destruction of the system, complete restoration of the Mother, of the Holy Spirit, and we want this planet to be ruled in righteousness. We want to, have the options to go, leave, do whatever we want to do, but we want our heritage restored unto us. And so, that's I think we're all finding a deeper meaning in that individually, but I think that the ones who are ascending are actually also finding a deeper meaning in that as a group we're finding a deeper meaning in that. I also hope that this will allow us to do more have more conversations across tribes, because there are even though we don't call uh the creator the same name, we all believe in a creator. Like we don't call the mother by the same name, but we all believe in the mother. You know what I mean? And so we could a lot of our differences are differences in the language that the Gentiles gave us. You know what I mean? So when we're able to communicate past this level of language, it'll be easier. So in the meantime, I encourage my brothers and sisters to look beyond language of the person, look at what they're saying, and look at their heart and see if they're saying it with their heart uncovered, if they're being honest, if they're being true. And those are the people you want to link up with, because we're going to be all ruling together in righteousness. It's not one group is going to rule over another group, like or anything like that, unless you're 2/3 in the midst. But everybody else, we're going to be ruling in righteousness. And so it's going to be different people who call the most high by a different name. But to me, if you want the destruction of the total destruction of the system and a restoration of the mother and return to righteousness, we all on the same page. You my brother and my sister, that's it. And the Gentiles, they don't want that. They don't want a total rest. They don't want a return of the father. They don't want a total restoration of the mother. They want to continue to make money and do what they're doing on the back of the mother, on the back of the angels, without even saying thank you, without even saying please in most cases. And we're not like that. We're very, very respectful over here because we respect each other. All right. Um Okay, here's one more point about Neptune. Because Neptune moves through the zodiac so slowly, transits from Neptune to a natal planet may last several years. This is one key reason the Neptune retrograde transits are important. Very easily, Neptune transits can dominate entire years of our lives. If one of our natal planets is caught in the crosshairs of Neptune's retrograde stations, the effects may be particularly intense and long lasting. This is not ever going away for them. They're not going back. We already seen it. They're in the autumn. They're in the twilight. It's over. It's over. And that once you get caught in the crosshairs of Neptune, no matter what, it's gonna be you got 800. You got double. We did 400. You got 800 years to serve, son. Like there's no getting away from it. So these Gentiles, man, they have no idea how much trouble they're in. All right, so I just put this up here about the Mars retrograde because that retrograde starts October the 30th, and so we just want to keep that in mind because that did have that big convergence, like I said, on the 1st of August, and so it's going to be this whole huge thing come October when Mars goes into retrograde, and so you can imagine it's going to be very intense come Mars retrograde. Actually, it's going to slow them down to nothing. Basically, it's going to inhibit their ability to act. And when Pluto goes direct, they're going to get destroyed like instantly. It's going to be really fast. Like right now, everything is super slow because Saturn is slowing it down and making it intense as it's slowing it down. Then you got Pluto also making things extra intense as it's slow. So every day is like on the edge of your seat for them because they have no idea what's going to happen next. However, once Mars goes into retrograde, they're not going to be able to respond. That's why they want mail in voting, by the way. So they can just get it in advance and don't have to worry about what's going to happen. And then Pluto's going to come and destroy them instantly. All right. Pluto was fast. So this is just some more information about Mars. I'm not going to talk about this too much because this video is long enough. Jupiter retrograde. Jupiter is in retrograde from July the 28th to November 23rd. The brothers and sisters on in I don't even know the tribe I'm affiliated with. We started a 40-day fast to take back the kingdom on July the 31st. So we're harvesting all of this energy that's coming in from this Jupiter retrograde, which is the abundance, the good fortune. We're harvesting in the wisdom. We're harvesting that. And I did a video about harvest versus harness, but the idea is that when you harvest energy, you're taking the energy in and you're transmuting it, you're changing it into something else. Meaning when you harness the energy, you take the energy in as it is and use it, store it. You just store it as it is for use. But when you harvest, you basically have to bring it in and you have to send it right back out, because a harvest, it'll go bad if you hold on to it. So you have to bring the energy in, you got to transmute it, and you got to put it out. um Oh, okay. I'm not going to read this. Okay, I'll read the last paragraph here. Jupiter's retrograde marks a period of profound inner growth. It is a chance to reconnect and realign with one's inner compass, indivisible inner truth, and greater expansive consciousness, the source within. So, as this retrograde is going on until November the 23rd, you can really develop your relationship with the Most High, with the ancestors, with the masters, with each other, and really um connect to the source within. And so looking at the planet and the fact that this is all of these planets are water. I mean, this is a lot of different planets that we have access to tap into and to connect with. This is more on the Jupiter retrograde aspect. There could also be a question of the laws surrounding the matters of the house it is retrograding in. So, for some, this could be a phase of deep philosophical questioning or deep dive into esoteric, religious, spiritual, and metaphysical studies. So, a lot of us are going to go even deeper. We're going to move forward. We're not going to, especially during this time, all the way until the end of the Jupiter retrograde, which is the 23rd of November. Which again, uh, I have advised several individuals, now is not a good time to incorporate a business. You could start working on it, of course, and harvest that energy and put it out for something good. But to actually use it as a start date for a business, I would wait until Jupiter goes direct in my semi-professional. Is This is what the angels are recommending through me. Okay. Um, Jupiter is the seeker. The retrograde phase suggests that what we seek is within, and we know that the universe is in us, and we are in the universe. Everything we see out there in the skies, we can find inside our own body. And once we're able to, that's why I like the micro, because it's easy for people to see. Okay, they have a star chart, they have a this, they have a that. But I do believe that the macro is important too, and so that's why you have people like Brother Wisdom who are covering the macro elements, which I'm greatly appreciative, because I'm not a macro thinker, so it helps me to expand beyond what is in my comfort zone. Typically, so you want to use the micro and the macro, the good and the bad, the angels and the demons. You want to use it all. All of it is available for you to use. You need to use it all. The difference is you just have to know how to use it, and it's not difficult. It's just that it takes some work, it takes some practice. And while we have all of this water pouring, raining down on into us really, really slowly because of the Saturn retrograde, you should take in all the information you can, learn all the things that you can, connect with all the similar, like minded beings that you can, so that when the destruction comes really fast, you will know that you have, okay, I know we have builders. I know how we're going to rebuild the kingdom. We're fasting to take back the kingdom, but how are we going to rebuild the kingdom? Well, I feel confident that we have builders. I feel confident when we have thinkers. I feel confident that we have the high priestess and stuff like that. We have everybody. Everybody. It's a lot of us that are on the same page and working to move forward. All right, Pluto is in retrograde. Again, Pluto rules Scorpio. Saturn is in the house of Scorpio, which is the eighth house. So the Pluto retrograde is going to be intensified, and it's in retrograde all the way until October the 8th. That is why you see, so I would suspect that after October the 8th, things are going to get really crazy really fast, and then they're going to try and get as much done before that Mars goes into retrograde, and their mouths are they have no ability to respond after that Mars goes into retrograde. Okay. um and this is some information on the Pluto retrograde. um Here we go. Pluto is a brutal master. He is unrivaled in his ability to break down structured existence. Yes, and we see that. And it's going down super slow because Saturn is in the house that Pluto rules. um which is what most folks mean to say if they invoke the holiest of terms, transformation. If Uranus breaks and Neptune dissolves, Pluto destroys. So wait, we've got breaking, dissolving, and destroying basically all conjunct. Yikes. Bad, bad, bad for the people who want to hold on to this system. He is an atomic bomb to Neptune's mist and Uranus's lightning bolts. All right. So yeah, that Pluto is kicking them in the butt. I mean, they're getting kicked on, and it's since it's below the midheaven, it's actually like underneath. Like you can't see Pluto's effects right now, but come October 8th, you should be able to see that Pluto has totally destroyed them. And that's what our Esau's Troubles videos about. I don't know if you've ever seen them, but the Esau's Troubles videos are not about saying, oh, woe to the Gentiles. No, it's to document the works of the supreme his supreme majesty of the universe. It's to document how he is taking these people out. Because if we don't document, they're not going to document their own destruction. We're going to have to write our own new fairy tales and stories and stuff, and we're going to need all of this. We're going to need these things to be documented so that we can tell our story in the right way from our own perspective. And so the Esau's troubles are a documentation of these stories, these things that are happening to these inorganic beings that they would never admit to, but we can see with our own two eyes. And we give all glory and honor to the Most High for destroying them. So it's really a celebration of the destruction. So if you've never seen one of the Esau's Trouble videos, I highly recommend it. Um, all right, so Juno is also in retrograde, and it's the asteroid of commitment. So let's see. Um, I'm not gonna say anything about this, except Juno was tied to her husband Jupiter. So you have the husband and the wife in the same house, which astrologically is it's going to just create more chaos. You have the husband and the wife in the same house, both in retrograde, so both of them are not in a great mood, and they're in the same house. That's going to be a lot of torment and trouble in relation to their relationship. So one of the plagues, we look at the 10 plagues of the apocalypse of Abraham, and one of the plagues is the husbands and the wives will basically take be no more by the hands of each other. And so you see that even in this right here. Even in this right here, Juno and Jupiter being in the same house, they're both in retrograde. It means they're both kind of in a bad mood, looking like they're going backwards. So there's going to be a lot of fighting and stuff like that. All right. So we have Vesta, that's in the house with um Saturn, and it is also in retrograde. And so basically, let me see. There's a sentence I wanted to read here. Um, Vesta reminds us of our holiness, wholeness, and the power inherent in our own life force energies, separate from others. So you have in the house of in the house of water, where the water, the spiritual waters are pouring down on us. You have Saturn and Vesta, where Vesta is spirituality, and so it's like the information, the spiritual downloads are being poured onto us slowly, which allows us to be able to absorb them and take in more, because the whole thing about spiritual revelation is that sometimes it can come too fast, and then you're overwhelmed, and uh, you are no more, because you weren't able to happen to it, or you take in the spiritual stuff and you're not physically capable of handling it, and therefore you reject it, or you have some other sort of negative response to it. So that is to say that people who are able to stand 10 toes down, take in the energy, the spiritual energy that's coming in the slow drip drop form that it is, and you're able to transmute it, and harvest it and transmute it and use it basically right away. We need all of that energy right now, just to keep things going. Then you will successfully navigate this time. But there's people who they can't handle this energy. They're breaking under the pressure. They weren't really built for this, and the signs are in the universe, and that's really unfortunate that you have to have a pure heart. It's you have to have an open heart. You have to be doing this for the Most High, or the Supreme Creator, or the complete destruction. You can't want to hold on to this system in any way. You have to be honest about yourself, what you want spiritually. All right, so Chiron is also in retrograde, and is also in that same ninth house, which is whatever I said. So I wanted to say something from here. Here we go. This planetoid is for everyone who, rather than giving in to despair amid their own suffering, reaches out so that others will not have to experience the pain they felt. See, that's the whole thing. A lot of us are in this truth because we don't want our children to have to go through being lied to. We don't want family and friends. We want to. we want to repent or avenge our ancestors, having been treated the way that they've been treated, and give them back the glory that they earned for the work and the things that they did. So that's where a lot of this stuff comes into play. Is we're operating from a sense of we need to do this for ourselves, but we also need to do this to restore the glory to the father, to our ancestors, like I said, to the mother. So we see this a lot. So even though, like, again, some people think that this stuff is not, applicable, you can't understand it. I'm sure there's some more things in here I could have said, but this video was already way too long. I just wanted to point out that, again, this is the Great Water Retrograde of 2022. If there's other planets that are in retrograde that I can cover and maybe do like a part two to this video, I would be glad to do so. And whatever I can do to be of service to the hand to the brothers and sisters, I am a willing handmaid of the Most High. um, so, uh, you know, just let me know, reach out to me. I have no problem um, uh, doing research, deep dives, information onto this so that everybody can be aware of what's going on. Again, this is our own technology, this is our own explanation. The Gentiles are not talking about this. Nobody's talking about this. As a matter of fact, there will be no other videos probably even made on this at all whatsoever. And so I thank all of you all for joining me. Of course, the spirits who are here with us, you're invited to go in peace. My beloved viewers, you're invited to be at peace. And always, always, always remember the Most High is your peace. Shalom, everyone.